This is the final issue of Crime Syndicate. So the first half of this video, we'll be reviewing the issue itself, and the other half is reviewing the series as a whole and the characters being ranked. So we start with a narration from Atomica as she surfs on Johnny Quick's coffin with Owlman gliding behind her down to Earth as they are chased by Alex Luthor's forces. They make their way to Metropolis where Ultraman is fighting Ultra Girl. We continue to ask why is she fighting him and where was she this entire time, as he thought he was the last Kryptonian. As it seems as if he's winning this fight, we cut to somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, where Emerald Knight and Sinestro has taken down Superwoman and chained her up on an island. And she tries to talk John into letting her go, but he tells her he wants to be a hero. Although I have to say I'm not a fan of Emerald Knight, so that she dresses like a hooker. I think that was way too far, especially for this comic. But as Emerald Knight argues with both Superwoman and his ring, she reveals that this island they're on is actually Demon's Island, home of the Amazons on Earth 3, who appear to help Superwoman as she breaks out of her chains. She orders the Amazons to kill Sinestro, but to keep Emerald Knight alive. But when Superwoman tries to convince John to join the dark side, she mentions his daughter, which prompts him to scream to not say her name, and he powers up at a blast that kills almost all of the Amazons except for Superwoman, and I think a couple others, along with Sinestro, who's not an Amazon, but he's also in the battle. We cut back to the fight between Ultra Girl and versus Ultraman. Learning Ultra Girl has actually been on Earth for a while and has learned all about all the horrible things Ultraman has done, which reminds me a lot of the Injustice 2 game. But Alex joins in the fight, but Ultra Girl doesn't seem to care, saying Ultraman doesn't deserve the family crest as Atomica and Owlman stand back. As Owlman suggests they should stay out of their family drama since it's between two Kryptonians, and they're simply just one metahuman and a human. We cut to Demon's Island, and the Ring has taken full control over Emerald Knight. And now Sinestro and Superwoman are forced to work together as he attacks them. But Superwoman uses her lasso to pull off the ring and the finger. Ouch. But when John is free of his ring, Superwoman taunts him, telling him that she knows dang well that Emerald Knight was in control when he killed her sister Amazons. But Sinestro created chains again to wrap around Superwoman's neck to shut her up. But Emerald Knight instead reveals he's done listening to him, and his ring shoots right through Sinestro, killing him in a very, very graphic panel. Wow. Going back onto John's finger as well, who now allies himself with Superwoman. So yeah, he's allying himself with the person who ripped off his finger. I mean, it's kind of funny when you think about it, but I can understand his motivation to why he would do that. We cut back to Ultraman, Ultra Girl, and Alex. But Ultraman just slaps Alex away as Ultra Girl shouts she'd rather die than join her cousin. But out of nowhere, Superwoman and Emerald Knight show up to hold Kara still as Owlman tells Ultraman he needs to kill her. But he can't, so instead, Atomica goes inside her head to kill her in a very graphic panel. Jeez. Which prompts Ultraman to fly off, and we cut to 1 week later. John goes to see his daughter, but like before, she refuses to see him, as long as he has the ring. Therefore, he kinda went back on his word. Then we cut to Red Hood, who's now been paralyzed with Power Tower, Venus, and Savannah, going to meet the Jokester, Earth 3's Joker. And then we cut to see Owlman is starting a group of Talons, who are Earth 3's Robins. And then we also see that a new Yellow Lantern was picked to bring justice, and it's Earth 3's version of Despero. And we also see Superman is now playing devil's advocate between Owlman and Ultraman, playing both sides, as even though that they're being friendly with one another, she knows well that both of them are going to eventually clash. Well, Atomica says goodbye to Johnny once and for all at his grave, which it looks a lot more expensive than I feel like a criminal or a serial killer should be given. And then the issue ends with the crime syndicate working together, but we can see that they're clashing with one another already, as they're arguing about how Atomica killed Ultra Girl, while John killed Johnny Quick, while Superman ripped off Emerald Knight's finger. Sorry, I call him Power Ring. That's from the New 52 version of Green Lantern. Version of Earth 3's version of Green Lantern was Power Ring, not Emerald Knight, but they changed it for Rebirth for some reason. And now I think it's time to talk about the series overall. I actually really liked it, especially this issue I really liked. Although I think there should have been a couple more issues, maybe like 8 to 12. And yeah, because certain things I think took way too long, and other things didn't take long enough. And now I want to talk about the characters specifically individually, and I want to rank them out in order of my favorites, so that's what I'm going to do. Owlman is honestly a great evil Batman. We're always seeing evil Superman from Overman, Ultraman, Red Sun Superman, Injustice 2 Superman, Injustice 1 Superman. I mean, they're both the same character, but different games. But now we finally get to see what would happen if someone as smart and resourceful as Batman was evil. I really enjoyed with how they were playing with the concept of him being a tall tale rather than being known as a fact, and how he liked the idea of being mysterious. Well, the same can be said about our Batman. Well, not our, because we know he's not real, but our Batman as in the one we usually read about, and how our Batman usually likes to be mysterious, but Owlman likes it too, and I like the idea of the twist of it being that just like it depends on who the person is who wants to be this mysterious figure, and that when Batman is it because he's a hero, you see that he's using it for good, but Owlman is using it for evil, and it's a really interesting concept, and I wish we got to see more of that because I really liked it. Superwoman was also another great character. I loved how she plays both sides when it comes to Ultraman and Owlman to order make sure if there was ever a war between the two, she'd be actually the one who would beat them both. I found her to be evil, very clever, and made a lot of good points when it comes to John and Sinestro, with how she's calling them out for being, not the smartest, while also calling out Ultraman for being misogynistic, which is also true. He was being misogynistic towards Superwoman, and she won the battle. It was really interesting to see her character be very different from the version of her from the New 52 that a lot of people loved. But here she was still, even though she was very different from the New 52 version of her, I thought she still made a very good villain, and I would love to see this version of her character continue in DC canon. While I also do miss the New 52 version, like I said, she was one of my favorite villains from the New 52, I think this version of her is also really good. Emerald Knight. Like I said when I was reviewing this comic, I really disliked when he was calling Superwoman a hooker, as I thought that was both misogynistic and kind of just being rude and very unheroic, as he was trying to be a hero at the time, and calling her that was very, not, I think it was just way too far for this comic. Overall, though, I thought his character in the back half issues was honestly a really joy to read, as he tried to redeem himself only to fail, as he attempted to be a hero his daughter can look up to, but at the end of the day, his daughter still wanted nothing to do with him. I thought his journey was really impressive for only 3 issues, as it didn't start until issue 4. As for just 3 issues, I felt you really got to know Emerald Knight, and you really got to see where he came from, and you got to see his whole struggle with the ring and everything. Was really impressive, and I would love to see Emerald Knight return in a better capacity in a later series. When I say better capacity, I mean in a series where perhaps, he's not calling Superwoman a hooker. I really disliked that part. And I also wasn't a big fan of sometimes his attitude. I thought it was a little bit much, but overall I really liked Emerald Knight. Ultra Girl was another character I was impressed by how well her character was developed in this series, as it was only really 1 issue, even though she did appear in 2 of them. It was only the latter half of issue 5 she appeared in, and it was only in 1 panel. So I'm going to count this issue as developing her character. I think she should have been introduced way earlier in the series, so we could have got to see more of her before, she died. But like I said, I really like Ultra Girl in this issue, because it was really just this issue, and I like how she was just dropping truth bombs about how idiotic and how just heinous Ultraman really is. And I think Ultra Girl made a lot of sense with what she was saying, and I think her character shouldn't have died off. I think she should have stuck around, even though I know this was the final issue. If they ever have another Crime Syndicate comic, or have the whole Earth 3 be invading Earth 1 again, or anything like that, I think Ultra Girl should have stuck around. The Legion of Justice. I think I should do all the characters separately, other than Emerald Knight, Alex, and Ultra Girl, because, they didn't do much individually all too much, so I grouped all the other characters together. But in a similar fashion to Ultra Girl, I wish they were introduced a lot earlier, as I think they were really interesting as a concept, and a lot of other members were really cool. I think the standouts for me were Venus and Red Hood, Earth 3's version of Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, which I would have really enjoyed to see more of that dynamic. and the whole purpose of their hate for Owlman because he killed a lot of their friends. And I think it would have been more interesting to, see more of that instead of the stuff like Starro, and we'll talk about Starro. But I think I would have liked to see more of the Owlman dynamic with his heroes or villains or anti-hero type characters like Venus and Red Hood. Atomica and Johnny Quick. I grouped these two together as well since I think it would be hard to talk about one without the other. While I didn't dislike either of them, they didn't really fit with the rest of the group of gods and expert fighters. Instead, they were just basic criminals like the rogues or, just the characters who just run around and don't really do anything but want to be evil. And I think there is certain characters who are really interesting like that. And I think Atomica and Johnny Quick had very cool designs and very interesting power sets. So I think they were still very interesting, but overall, personality-wise and story-wise, neither character was really as interesting as Emerald Knight, Superwoman, and Owlman, so that's why they're so down this list. Starro. I thought the Starro stuff took way too long. If this was a 12-issue series, then I think it would have been fine to have like 3 issues about Starro, but it's a 6-issue series, so half the series is focusing on them getting together, and way too much was being focused on Starro. I would have liked to see Ultra Girl and the Legion of Justice more over Starro. I really dislike Starro in this series. I've never cared for Starro in the comics. I think he's really just burnt out, and I really didn't like him here. And the last 2 characters I want to talk about is Alex Luthor versus Ultraman. I grouped these 2 together because I hated them both. Neither of them did anything but insult their teammates or each other. The 2 were both petty, whiny, and it's clear both characters were based off great characters Butcher and Homelander from The Boys. But it just didn't work. They're like childish versions of the characters, as they're just petty with one another. Their hatred for one another is never explained. The reason why they do what they do is never explained. Neither of the characters' motivation makes sense. Neither character really comes up with a good plan or does anything that is, helps them, as Owlman has to think of every plan that Ultraman usually decides to go against or insults. Atomica had to be the one who killed Ultra Girl because Ultraman refused to. It's ridiculous. Alex Luthor refused to go on the mission, so all the other heroes went on it. It just got to the point where I think these 2 characters, they want them to be these big bads and these characters who are beyond each other's groups. At the end of the day, I find them just be very whiny and very petty. They don't like to get their hands dirty. They don't like to actually do anything. They just like to say words, insult their own teammates, and just constantly whine about losing when they don't do anything. And maybe I'm being a bit too hard on them, but they were just very hard to read. And that's it. I'm really sorry if I was way too aggressive towards the back half of my review. Like I said, I really like the series, just not Alex and Ultraman. I do not like either of those characters. Personally, I think Owlman, Superwoman, and Emerald Knight were definitely the major characters in this comic I loved, and they're the characters who made me keep wanting to read more, as they're really the biggest characters on this entire in this entire series, who I think had enough time, was very well developed, and had great one-liners, etc. Although Emerald Knight, like I said, had some lines I wasn't a big fan of. Even Ultra Girl and Legion of Justice, I thought, also had some great moments. It's just, I think Alex Luthor and Ultraman were way too whiny, and Starro was being way too major in this comic. I did not need most of that Starro stuff. I think he should have been in the first issue, and that was it. And that's it. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. And I'm really sorry if I offended any of you by being so aggressive towards the end of this video. Bye.